Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Madhavendra Puri. So we're going to hear a little bit about Madhavendra Puri this morning, his disappearance day. The image on the screen is a scene from Vrindavan, where Madhavendra Puri, observing the high Paramahansa stage of sannyas, where, a little description, when one who takes sannyas, Prabhupada's description is it's a sequence. Someone is a grahastha, and they're living in the village, and they take sannyas. And it's a big deal. So when they take sannyas, there's a procedure that they live outside the village, but they come into the village to accept alms and then go back to the outside the village living situation. And then the second is they don't come back to their same village. They go to all kinds of places, parivajakacharya, and they accept alms wherever the new place is that they go. And then there's another stage of sannyas that Madhavendra Puri, had accepted, where he wouldn't ask for alms. Rather, if someone brought him something, you're adjusting the volume, could you move it back down? It's too loud. Thank you. We'll see how it goes. Paramahansa stage of sannyas is where someone like Madhavendra Puri, he wouldn't beg or approach people, unknown people, to accept alms from them. Madhukari, little bit, and then parivajakacharya, then nothing. If persons gave nothing, so in this situation he was in Vrindavan, and he hadn't taken a meal, he hadn't received anything, and he didn't ask for anything, so he's sitting under a tree, just chanting and immersing his thoughts in Krishna. And one little boy from the village came, it happened to be Krishna, and he brought some milk. So Madhavendra, the little conversation between the two, how did you know I was fasting? He said, in our village, people, we always offer something to people who come, sadhus like you. So the ladies in the village, they saw you sitting here, they asked me, please bring this pot of milk to that sadhu sitting over there. So here's a pot of milk. It's for you. And Madhavendra Puri was charmed with the beauty of this young boy. And then the young boy just, poof, he disappeared. Or he was no longer visible but to Madhavendra Puri. And he started drinking the milk, and the milk drinking resulted in ecstatic emotion. And he was thinking, who was this boy and what was this milk? And then it occurred to him that it was Krishna that was bringing, so he wouldn't have to fast. And in that way, he was chanting on into the evening. And during the night, he had a dream. And in his dream, that same boy, little blue boy, appeared to him in a dream and said, I've been waiting for you for a long time. My deity form is over there, down the other side of Govardhan Hill, because some thieves were coming and it was risky, and so they hid me in some bush, and I've been sitting in the bush for a long time. So please, in the morning when the day breaks, get some local people and come find me, and you can begin my worship. It was a nice dream. And when he woke in the next morning, he remembered the details of the dream, and sure enough, he went to that place that was described in the dream, and here is where he found the deity. Now, this is what it looks like today. What it looked like when he found the deity probably was not the same. It wasn't, a little stanchion and who knows how much foliage or trees, but it is said it was like in a thicket of trees, and beneath the thicket there was the deity. And he was very astonished and very happy. And so, because of his being a Paramahansa sannyasi, it was very easy to gather some local people to perform a ceremony, an installation ceremony. Here's inside that little structure. On the back side, that's where he found the deity. And on the front side, this is just a Govardhan Shila, like many other Govardhan Shilas. So they're to this day preserving. So he had the deity taken on top of a hill, and then they performed Abhishek, and the whole procedure is in detail described, because the deity had been unkept for a long time, so it was necessary to make the deity fit, and of course this painting shows the deity as being very tall, and not quite that tall. And Madhavendra Puri looks quite young. He wasn't quite that young, but artists, how they do things. And he inspired all the local people. So once the Abhishek and the dressing of the deity was done, then came the offering. So he requested some village people to prepare items, and he could offer them to the deity. And it was very devotional and lovely. And as a result, for a whole month, people from different villages came wishing they would have their turn, and every day this fantastic worship of the deity was taking place to commemorate the establishing of the deity. So big piles of so many descriptions there in Chaitanya Charitamrita, rice, of course, and chapatis, and milk, dairy products, and vegetables, and so many things, day by day. And then he would perform the dressing and the arti and so forth. So it's a big, grand festival, and the whole of Vrindavan, certainly around Govardhan Hill, became involved. Very big, celebrated event. And after some time, something like this went on. The worship of the deity went on for quite some time, something like a couple of years. And at the end of a couple of years, he had a dream, and the deity appeared to him again in a dream. Only before it was like a little boy, now it's the deity appeared in his dream and said, "It's summertime and it's very hot. And could you make an arrangement for me to get some camphor and sandalwood paste to cool my body down, because it's very, very hot." So now, I don't know if during this instruction to Madhavendra Puri, he was told to go all the way to Puri, because Puri was a place where it was known they had such ingredients. But camphor and sandalwood, and grind the sandalwood and make paste and apply it to my body. So he was on his way from Vrindavan to go to Puri, and on the way he stopped in Shantipur. And in Shantipur, that was the home or the place of residence of Advaitacharya. And while he was in Advaitacharya's residence in Shantipur, he gave him Diksha. So this is a painting of some photographs. On one side, that's Madhavendra Puri at the left side, and then Advaitacharya is in the middle. And Madhavendra Puri gave Diksha to Advaitacharya in this place. Here's a close-up of the photograph of a painting of Madhavendra Puri. In Bengali on the right side and in English on the left side, above his name, above the photo. And this is the altar area where all of this took place. Inside, we'll see inside, there's the temple on the right side. There's very nice deities of, not in this location. So he continued from there to go in the direction of Puri, and while he was traveling, he stopped in Ramuna. This is the deity of Gopinath, or Shirakora Gopinath in Ramuna. On the right side and the left side, there's additional deities of Krishna, known in that temple as Govinda and Madan Mohan, and then, of course, Gopinath. So those three principal deities. The deity that's holding the flute in the center, that's a square-looking flute, is because the deity the flute is square-looking. You'll see that in the next picture, or rectangular. And you can't see because of the way the deity is dressed, but it's a bas-relief deity, which means there's a stone structure behind the deity that spreads left and right. And on that stone structure that's behind the deity, there's scenes from Vrindavan. There's cows, there's gopis, there's gopas, and carved on the backside of upon which the deity is affixed, bas-relief. Then the others are freestanding deities. They came from Vrindavan. So when he was visiting there, he heard that they have a very special offering they make to the deity every day. There's a number of pots, something like 8 pots of kheer, or it's sometimes in the translation is called sweet rice, but it's not exactly sweet rice. It's just a milk preparation called kheer. And there it is. Amrita Keli is the name of the preparation, or kheer, and there's 12 clay pots. So when he was visiting that particular day, he was seeing this nice offering being made to the deity, and he thought, this looks very, very wonderful. Maybe if I could get a chance to taste some portion of that sweet rice or kheer or Amrita Keli, then I could make some for my deity. And it was just a thought, and then he started admonishing himself. What a terrible thing to think. Before this offering is even made to the deity, I'm thinking to offer to my deity. So he felt very remorseful. And he spent the night in the backside of the temple. In the backside of the temple, there's a courtyard. And the courtyard, so it was just underneath a tree. In that courtyard, he took rest. And that night, the pujari had a dream. There's lots of dreams in this. In the dream, the pujari saw the deity. And the deity told him, I've stolen some sweet rice, some kheer, some Amrita Keli for Madhavendra Puri. you didn't notice when you cleaned the altar, I had already hid one pot. And if you come on the altar, make yourself clean, then come on the altar, and you'll find underneath the backside of my deity dress. And then he woke up. So he was startled, and he made himself clean and went to the altar, and sure enough, when he looked behind the cloth of the deity, there was the sweet rice, or the kheer, or the amritakeli. And so he realized it's a loving reciprocation between the deity and the sadhu who came to visit Ramuna. So he went walking around here and there. He didn't know where to look. So he just was calling out the way the description goes. Madhavendra Puri, Gopinath has stolen some sweet rice for you. You are the most fortunate. Madhavendra Puri, it's like just, like a walking around in the dark, calling Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri heard, and sure enough, the pujari gave him the sweet rice. And Madhavendra Puri was amazed, because he knew the thought that he had, that just because he had the desire to taste the sweet rice, the deity stole some sweet rice for him. And so he started tasting the sweet rice, and something happened. His whole body became transformed, and goosebumps and ecstasy, and it was transformed. So he decided two things. He decided, I have to leave, because when people hear that the deity stole some sweet rice from me, people will want to come and worship me and honor me, and I don't want any of that. So I'm going to leave. Before the day came, before the sun came up, he started traveling, heading for Puri. And the second thing is, he kept the pot, and he decided, in a fold of his dhoti, he would keep the pot, and little by little he would eat the pot, break off a little piece of the pot and munch on the pot. So he began his travel all the way to Puri, and when the devotees in Puri, the pujaris particularly, found he was on a mission for Gopal back in Vrindavan, because it was so hot in Vrindavan, they were very happy to supply. They trusted him. They didn't see him as a deceiver or something. They gave him all supplies, and they gave him a man to carry the supplies, because it was, big load for that whole the hot season. And then he worked his way back, heading north, and came to the temple again, to the Ramuna, Chirakora Gopinath. And by that time, he had become, a well-known place in Vrindavan, well-known in the place of Ramuna, well-known in the place of Puri. And he had a dream, another dream. In the dream, his deity of Gopal appeared. And Gopal said, no need to carry all these supplies all the way to Vrindavan. You can apply the sandalwood paste and camphor to Gopinath, because we're all the same entity, we're the same being, so you apply it to Gopinath, and I'll be very pleased. And then his dream broke. And so he stayed for a long time in Ramuna, and the deity became celebrated by the name Chira Kora Gopinath. Kora means he stole. He's the Gopinath who stole sweet rice from Madhavendra Puri. Now he didn't name the deity like that, but the local people identified the glory of Gopinath in that way. So here's a painting of his dream, where Gopal instructed. You can just apply all this to the deity of Gopinath. So here's the altar again, this time a little bit more complete. And the deity of Gopinath is in the center. And then the two deities on the side, on the our far right or their far left, it looks like Laddu Gopal. And then there's, of course, deities of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, this is not an ISKCON or a Gaudiya temple. It's a local temple, but there's a very strong connection. They know, and we know, it's a very strong connection with Lord Chaitanya and his disciplic succession. This is how they dress the deity or attire the deity on Akshaya Tritiya, covering the deity completely in sandalwood. This is the deity on different days. You can see they change his flute. Sometimes it's this brass-looking color. Sometimes it's silver-looking color. The same. The deity on the right, it's a different deity. This is just Radha Krishna. This is a more recent photo, as far as I'm aware. And when there's arti time in Ramuna, there's many people come. The temple is a little bit remote, but that doesn't matter. People come from all over the place to take darshan of the deity. Here's the deity of Chirakora Gopinath in Toronto. They named the deity after this deity in Puri, Ramuna. Nice deities. And this is the samadhi of Madhavendra Puri. Inside, here's the sitting place, the bhajan kutir, and then his samadhi came later because he spent a long time in Ramuna. There's a very intimate relation between him and the deity. Now, back in Vrindavan, the Gopal deity was still there. This is his a murti of Madhavendra Puri at his place of samadhi. And here's a nice painting of Madhavendra Puri. So here's some from Chaitanya Charitamrita. We find a particular gift in addition to this wonderful exchange with Gopinath and Gopal deity. Madhavendra Puri had established a type of love that became known as the root or the type of worship of as opposed to, we heard this a little bit, as opposed to the line in which he was initiated, the line of Madhvacharya, which is a line of Aishwarya, appreciating, although Madhvacharya worshipped the deity of Krishna, he worshipped the deity of Krishna in a mood that's different than we worship the deity of Krishna. He worshipped the deity of Krishna as an avatar of Vishnu, because one way of properly looking at Krishna is an avatar of Vishnu. Although we understand from the Bhagavatam, he's the avatari along with being an avatar of Vishnu. So, Madhavendra Puri being in that line, naturally he received those teachings and he had that mood. And because the Supreme Lord had a plan for him, he took that mood to yet a further step. And that further step was the mood of ecstatic love. And in the mood of ecstatic love, he absorbed himself in deep mood of devotion to Krishna in the mood of separation from Krishna. Here's the phrase, you'll find this in Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is the phrase that he was reciting again and again. So he refers to himself as Dina, or very fallen. I Dina Dayadranatha He, Mathuranatha Kadavalokshase, Hridayam Tavad Aloka Kataram Dayata Brahmyati Kim Karom Yaham. So the translation, O my Lord, O most merciful Master, O Master of Mathura, when shall I see you again? Because of my not seeing you, my agitated heart has become unsteady, O most beloved one. What shall I do now? So this is the mood of the gopis after Krishna had left Vrindavan and he was elsewhere. And they deeply felt the mood that's expressed here, and thus Madhavendra Puri was entering that mood by repeating and repeating and repeating and going emotionally, spiritually, emotionally, very deep in this mood of love and separation as the gopis felt. Now there's some detail, we'll cover it in a minute. Worship and separation is considered by this is Prabhupada's. Prabhupada's writing in Chaitanya Charitamrita, whereas the Madhavendra Puri Leela is described. Worship and separation is considered by the Gaudiya Madhva Sampradaya to be the topmost level of devotional service. According to this conception, the devotee thinks of himself as very poor, dina, and neglected by the Lord. Thus, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu addresses the Lord as Dina Dayadra Nata, as did Madhavendra Puri. Such an ecstatic feeling is the highest form of devotional service. Now that's Prabhupada's description of this mood that Madhavendra Puri was the bearer of. He passed it on to his followers, his disciples. In disciplic line, those of you that are familiar with disciplic line, that's found in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. Bhaktisiddhanta is the author of that. Prabhupada, drew from Bhaktisiddhanta. But in the description of the prior to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we find Madhavendra Puri, and then we'll find Ishwara Puri, Nityananda, and Advaitacharya. Each of those three were Diksha disciples of Madhavendra Puri. And then we'll see, there's other authorities that say otherwise. And that otherwise is the predecessor of Madhavendra Puri was Lakshmipati Tirtha, who gave Diksha to Madhavendra Puri. And then Madhavendra Puri to what Bhaktisiddhanta understood. Those three took initiation, Diksha, mantra Diksha. So Madhavendra Puri passed on to those three the same mood, same ecstatic mood. Another view, we'll cover it shortly, but others say that Lakshmipati Tirtha gave Diksha to Nityananda, and that he was the close friend or intimate associate out of Madhavendra Puri, but he took during that period of time when Nityananda was traveling. This is the photograph. Now the photograph, the caption for the photograph is Nityananda received initiation from Madhavendra Puri, but then later Nityananda visited Madhavendra Puri for many days. So the sub-topic is there's differences of opinion. And along with those three, Ishwara Puri, Lord Nityananda, and Advaita Acharya, another disciple was Ramachandra Puri. So this is a nice painting depicting the circumstance under which Lord Chaitanya accepted initiation from Ishwara Puri. This is their second meeting. The first meeting was when Ishwara Puri was just traveling, and he came to Navadvip, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu greeted him because he was a teacher, and then here comes this sadhu to their town. So he greeted him very respectfully and requested him to take his meal with Mother Sachi and Jagannath Mishra. And so Ishwara Puri did that, and in the course of being in the association of this young teacher, Nimai Pandit, he some affection, because Nimai Pandit was very nice, and Ishwara Puri was the spiritual master, so some affection was already there. And he made some comments and some remarks to his father about how wonderful your boy is. He didn't indicate he was the personality of Godhead, but he understood his good qualities. Then later, after his Jagannath Mishra, his father, Nimai Pandit's father, died, he was going to Gaya to perform Shraddha. It's a procedure very common. So up a hill, then there's as you see in the painting here, there's the imprint or a mark of the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu, and they place flowers by the feet of Vishnu, or by the mark of the feet. So Ishwara Puri just happened to be there at a time when Lord Chaitanya and some of his students came to perform Shraddha in Gaya. And in course of time, during this visit up in Gaya, Ishwara Puri gave initiation to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And that marked a particular transformation, meaning before he was a scholar and kind of like a wrangling, undefeatable, scholarly type of personality, full of knowledge, and he could defeat anybody left, right, and sideways, and he was doing that without all the detail. After this, he lost interest in scholarship and debate and teaching Sanskrit, and he became interested in Sankirtan. And that's when the Sankirtan movement began, after his initiation, his decreasing or detaching himself from his scholarship pastimes to his Sankirtan pastimes, marked by this initiation. Now, at the same time, there was a second, yet another disciple of Madhavendra Puri. His name was Ramachandra Puri. And Ramachandra Puri, when he heard and observed again and again that his spiritual master, Madhavendra Puri, is reciting this verse again and again, and in the mood of the gopis, he didn't like it. So what are you doing? This is not in the scripture. What are you doing? So he criticized him to his face. And Madhavendra Puri didn't take it so well. He said, I reject you. You please go somewhere. Go anywhere you like. I don't want to see your face. If I see your face and I die, I'll achieve a hellish destination. So please, anywhere you like, it's yours. So he left. Ramachandra Puri was the opposite of Ishwara Puri. Ishwara Puri was very respectful, very subordinate, very able to assimilate the gift that Madhavendra Puri was giving. that is, spontaneous love and ecstatic mood in separation from Krishna, like the gopis. Ishwara Puri had that also from his spiritual master. And Ramachandra Puri does the opposite. He continued his offensiveness anywhere and everywhere where he went. He went from place to place because he was a sannyasi. And when he went from each place, he would look for some fault, and then he would criticize the Vaishnavas for their faults. And fault finding is, it's a no-no. But it was a yes for him. It was just, he did it everywhere. And he eventually did this with Lord Chaitanya, but he couldn't find a fault, so he invented a fault and find fault with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, although there wasn't. And Mahaprabhu didn't defend himself, but he understood very well. This person is my spiritual master's godbrother, and this person is very offensive. So, Madhavendra Puri never returned to Vrindavan. He stayed and left his body in Ramuna, but the deity didn't stay. The deity stayed in Vrindavan, and there was a problem with the deity staying in Vrindavan, and that is, he had installed the deity on a hill, and following Madhavendra Puri came Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya and the followers of Lord Chaitanya wouldn't walk on Govardhan Hill. So there's a little document you should have received, and it gives an explanation of how did it happen to begin with. How it was that Madhavendra Puri placed the deity on the hill. Because he was walking on Govardhan Hill, and Lord Chaitanya wouldn't walk on Govardhan Hill. And the answer was, it's what the deity instructed. The deity instructed him to place him in such and such place, so he did. And he walked on the hill to follow the instruction of Gopal. But 2 generations later, there was a problem because Lord Chaitanya and therefore the followers of Lord Chaitanya wouldn't walk on Govardhan Hill. So there's a document that gives the history of, at this time, a very prominent acharya in the Pushti Marg was Ballabha Acharya. Ballabha Acharya had some association with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We can read about that in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And so there was some cross-pollination between Pushti Margis and the Gaudiyas. And in 2 generations after, or a generation rather, after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there was a strong relationship between Raghunath Das Goswami, who accepted responsibility for the deity in the absence of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then the son of Ballabhacharya. There's details you can read, but Ballabhacharya, eventually he left the world, and his son was devastated, feeling very sad at the loss of his father, a great, super great Vaishnav, a great Acharya, Ballabhacharya. So Raghunath Das decided, while the deity is still up on the hill, the Ballabhacharya followers didn't have a restriction of walking on the hill, so they took over the worship of the deity on the hill, on the hill of Govardhan. Then an event happened where Aurangzeb and some other Muslim soldiers were on a rampage of trying to find deities and smashing deities. And so to keep the deity safe, the Ballabha Acharya Pushti Margis removed Gopal from Govardhan and took him to Rajasthan. Not so far away, not so close either. And it was for safety's sake, and there he is today, in Natadwar. And there's some history. Prior to Aurangzeb was a predecessor king named Akbar, and Akbar was a very affable Vaishnava, or king. He was a Muslim king, but he had great affection for Rupa Goswami and Jiva Goswami, and because of their liking for the deity, you see on his chin, there's a nice pearl, a very large decoration, and to this day that pearl is still there. So here's a painting, it's not the actual deity, where Gopinath is. But that Gopinath had his name changed. They started in calling Natadwar. It's the same deity. Lifting with his left hand in the air, Krishna is lifting Govardhan Hill. And this is a picture up on just to the right of center. There's a picture, a photograph rather, of where the deity worship was up on the hill of Govardhan, where the Gaudiya Vaishnavas wouldn't go and the Pushti Margis would go. When Lord Chaitanya visited, because he wouldn't walk on the hill, the deity came down. The deity came down by the local people. They didn't have a problem walking on Govardhan Hill, and they brought the deity down in a palanquin. And there's Mahaprabhu dancing and chanting and experiencing ecstatic love for Krishna as the deity came before him. Then we're almost done. This is a murti of Rasikananda. And there's an interesting detail about Rasikananda. You'll also find this in a document that you should have by now, a PDF. And Rasikananda is in the same line 2 generations after the 6 Goswamis. And he very, very devoted. His samadhi is in Ramuna because he became very attached to the deity. And there's some history that's in that one of the documents. It's a widely accepted. It's not a shastra, but it's a widely accepted history of where the deity came from, with the Gopinath deity. So it goes like this. This is in Orion, in the area where the Ramuna is, there was an historian who wrote the following biography. During some period of time, in the 13th year that Ramachandra, previous yuga altogether, previous time altogether actually, he was in Chitrakoot with Sita, and he was smiling very happily. And she was asking, what's amusing you? And he said, I'm remembering a pastime of mine in Vrindavan. So she was curious, so to satisfy her, he took a stone, and with his arrow, he carved the deity with in this bas-relief look, according to this history, that depicts some cows, depicts some gopis, depicts some other personalities in Vrindavan in the background, and then the deity, Gopinath deity. And after some time, they left Chitrakoot. The deity remained there, according to this biography. There was, Lord Brahma came daily to worship this deity of Gopinath in this particular place in Chitrakoot. The ages passed, and one king was passing through the area, and he saw this looked like an abandoned deity that hadn't received proper worship in a long, long time, and he became tracked into the deity, so he took the deity to bring to his kingdom. And when he was in the travel to reach his kingdom, he passed through Ramuna. And guess what? He had a dream. And Gopinath told the king in his dream, I want to stay here, so leave me here. And so the king accepted. This is a dictation from the Supreme Lord. He built this little temple, and then he departed. And then later, Rasikananda came to this place, and he saw the deity, became fascinated with the deity. You'll find all this. And he stayed and did worship, and he wrote. He did what other things that Rasikananda did, but this became his headquarters or his place of residence. And he attracted many, many people because of his bhakti and his singing and his way of worship. This is his samadhi place. You can see on the right side, is in English on the right side, where it says this is his place. That's the end, yeah. So in the same courtyard, there's Rasikananda's samadhi, and then in another part of the courtyard, there's Madhavendra Puri's samadhi and Bhajan Kutir place, both. So Ramuna it's remote, it's not in the middle of anything. It takes a while to get there, and it's just in the middle of, at least when I was there, agricultural fields in all directions. It was that kind of a quiet place. At the same time, very pristine, very spiritually surcharged, as you can get a sense how important this place is. So this is some little background on Madhavendra Puri. Emphasis, of course, on his relationship with Gopal and Gopinath, and how intimate they were with him, and he with them, and his mood, the mood of, most important, the mood of the Gaudiya Vaishnava's mood, the highest form of expression of love for Krishna is the mood of the gopis, and he pioneered it, or made it known to the world, manifested it. So he was chosen by Krishna in many ways. A very important person in our disciplic line. I don't know of any writings that he did. We know of his teachings, but not so much his writings, and that's okay. There are persons who heard from him and had this association, and they did their abundant writing along the same lines. So we owe, Gaudiya Vaishnavas owe Madhavendra Puri a great debt in the way of the transcendental emotion. And during that period of time, it wasn't common. Lord Chaitanya made it popular, or made it well known, so it became well known, and then many other things it got distorted by people that really didn't understand him and didn't understand his teachings, etc. So that was a problem, became a problem. But it's important for us to know our ancestry, and again, indebtedness to Madhavendra Puri for what he gave the world and us through disciplic succession. Okay, so that's our topic on Madhavendra Puri. Short and plenty sweet. Any discussion on this topic? take the microphone?
So you said Lakshmipati is the guru of Madhavendra Puri,
Yes.
and then Madhavendra Puri gave Diksha to three of them, you said?
Madhavendra Puri did what?
Diksha to Nityananda Prabhu.
There's differences of opinion, but I expressed what Bhaktisiddhanta wrote and which Prabhupada had printed in the introduction to Bhagavad Gita, our disciplic succession. And there's other opinions. And Prabhupada expresses what those other opinions are.
Okay. So who are the other one? Three Maharajas. Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita?
Some say, the three that are in the list, Nityananda, Advaita Acharya, and Ishwara Puri.
Ishwara Puri, okay. And I also remember he is an example for a Madhurya Bhava, right?
Who?
The Madhavendra Puri.
Yeah.
You said he's a
He introduced it.
Okay.
Yes, and specifically in the mood of separation. Madhurya, rasa, in the mood of separation.
Okay. What are the pastimes, Maharaj, that we can remember Madhavendra Puri and that ecstatic love of seed of devotion?
Well, I just shared it. I only know what's in Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Okay.
But I invite you to read in that section.
Okay.
It doesn't give pastimes. It just it describes him and his personality and his mood.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Anything? Do we know like who Madhavendra Puri was in his past life? Any reference or
No. No.
So Guru Maharaj, this Gopal deity is that Srinathji, right?
They're one and the same. He named the deity Gopal because it was Gopal that came. Gopal, the cowherd boy, came and brought him his pot of his milk. So he named, and that's how he was named. And then when the Vallabhacharya followers, the Pushti Marg followers, they liked this other name. Same deity, different name. And then they took him to Nathadwar, and then he, that became official. Srinathji. Just like on our altar, right?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for sharing, because I didn't know that, so this was new for me to learn that. Thank you. The other thing also, when you explained like Lord Ramachandra said Sita Devi, and that is already like in Treta Yuga, but he's already explaining about what happened.
Yeah,
in Vrindavan.
that's no problem.
Yeah.
No problem. It's 3 Manus later that Krishna appeared, but he knows the eternal pastime, and he knows.
It was interesting to note that Akbar was favorable to Jiva Goswami and Rupa Goswami, whereas Ramachandra Puri, he was not even favorable to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or was offensive to him.
Yeah.
So it's just the religion doesn't matter, but looks like what you believe in and the respect is kind of different from what religion you're following. Is that some...
It's his personality was an offensive personality. It doesn't matter religion. He was an offensive personality. And he happened to be a disciple of... He received Diksha from Madhavendra Puri. But he was an offensive person. Now, obviously he wasn't offensive when he gave him Diksha. Something happened. He became proud or whatever else and became offensive. And once, an offender has a tendency to repeat offender. That was like his thing. His happiness was finding some discrepancy in others and then fault finding them, which is, it's ABC from our training in Krishna consciousness is one of the principal offenses. Finding faults with the Vaishnavas is a principal offense. And he didn't have a problem. He liked it. So It has nothing to do with sampradaya, it has to do with his personality.
And I was thinking about the fault finding too, that even amongst devotees, we although don't express externally that you're at fault or whatever, but internally it goes on all the time.
Yep. By the way, what you just said was extensively covered in the seminar on respect that I just gave. And in detail, our acharyas take the writings of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 29, and detail it and detail it and detail it, expand it. And so it escalates. It starts with that one, which you just described, and then it goes further and goes further and goes further. Envy generates more envy. And the fault finding is the final one. But before even saying anything, that one can feel. And that's problematic. It blocks bhakti. And it escalates. There's a consequence that escalates.
When that kind of thought comes, like maybe someone is at fault, how would you handle that situation?
You don't see the fault. There's different, depends on the person, depends on the circumstance. But A and B and C. Here's an individual, you assume it's a devotee. Supposing it's not a devotee, you could also find fault with a not devotee. But supposing it's a devotee, here amongst all souls, here's a soul that has recognized the importance of taking shelter of the personality of Godhead and serving Him. And B, they have some, the influence of the modes of nature are there, and defects of making mistakes are there. And so, that's a covering, it's not the person. So let me honor, turn the fault finding around the 180 degrees and see, here's an individual that they have shortcomings and faults, but they're amongst all Manusyanam Sahasreshu, living entities, they've understood the importance of taking shelter and trying to serve favorably the personality of Godhead, which means serving the devotees favorably. So you go to the super plus, which allows you to at least be detached enough from the minus to not obsess about the minus. And then second, with the minus, if I'm going to regard another person as carrying Krishna within their heart, devotee or not devotee, how can I find fault with them? So the them is the soul, not the behavior. So that's another thing. Separate the covering from the essence that's moving the covering. Do I have any faults or defects? And how can I fault another for having shortcomings, faults, or defects? Physician, heal thyself, as the saying goes. And one who becomes healed, they can see the transcendental even when there's not transcendental. There's discrepancy. So seeing the discrepancy is not the problem. It's how you emotionally process it. One should know what, their elbow from their foot. What's what. This is to be done, that's not to be done. And there's a shortcoming here I can see. So then how do you process it? Which is what your question is. It's like other souls, like me included, there's some deficiency, less than perfect status. No surprise. So let me not find fault with that or look down upon the person who does that other, because I also do. So what's the difference? So there may be some difference, that's okay, but the principle is not different. So move the dial towards seeing with the spiritual vision. And then see what you can do in your relationship with the other person to respect them and to see a way forward where they can be inspired within themselves, or even by your association or both, to recognize the deficiency without the angst of holding hard feelings or negative emotions towards them, or judging them, or any of that. Leave the material behind and go in the spiritual direction. I mean, let's take the example of our founder Acharya. Did he read Markandeya, his arrival prayer? He knew what was going on before he left India, and when he reached America. Yikes. I don't know why you brought me here. From him to Krishna. But then he saw a discrepancy. But what did he do? So he that gives us a clue what we can do. Try to encourage bhakti. And by the ways that you can encourage bhakti, you do that. With the non-devotee, with a devotee, or somewhere in between. And we do that. Pass bhakti on to that person who, instead of faulting or feeling I'm higher and they're lower, feel yourself as a servant of the personality of Godhead, on his mission, an instrument of him. And so what's his interest? And so you do like that in those situations. Be a follower of our founder Acharya. I mean, this topic came up again and again and again. So listen to the recordings, because it's important. How we can have dealings in our society where I'm less than perfect, others are less than perfect, and I'm detecting the less than perfect in others more acutely than in myself. And I'm not saying anything, but I'm feeling something. It's unwholesome. And it perpetrates more. The consequence is it gets worse, not better. Something else?
I have one.
Hare Krishna.
Should we call the Sampradaya Gaudiya Sampradaya, or is it Gaudiya Madhva Sampradaya?
This is Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Or we can just say Gaudiya Sampradaya. But more complete is in full. Brahma's the head. Madhvacharya gathered and assimilated and presented a particular picture. And Lord Chaitanya took that and expanded it. Okay?
Madhvacharya got it from
Madhvacharya was initiated in the line of Lord Brahma.
Vyasa.
Yeah. Now, he was unique. In other words, in different ways he was unique, but one of the things he did is he wrote a commentary on Brahma Sutra, or Vedanta Sutra, and he went all the way to Vyas to have it verified. It's not like he heard from Vyas, and then he assimilated what he said, and he wrote the Brahma Sutra or Vedanta Sutra commentary. That's not the sequence. But, he was a gifted person, and he was submissive to the right person.
Any possibility in the future that you would do the same Vaishnava etiquette, like a mini version of it for us too? It was just so beautiful listening to the respect and all.
I did it 3 times.
Yeah. So for us, no?
No, for us, no. It's all recorded.
Yeah. No, but for our congregation.
I know what you're saying, and I'm saying it's all recorded. That's a polite no.
Maharaj, but the Gaudiya name was actually given by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Swami, right?
No. He used the term, he didn't give the term.
So it was there from the time of Lord Chaitanya.
Well, was he known? By what name? What names is Lord Chaitanya known? Gauranga. And the place is known as Gaudiya. The place, Mayapur. So he just borrowed, it's an appropriate name for the Gaudiya Math. And he didn't coin the phrase, it's from the location. And Lord Chaitanya. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.